Hello, everyone, and I'd like to apologize for being away for so long. I'm back now. Hopefully, everyone's enjoyed the videos that have been coming out for everything. And I'm here to talk wrestling again with Connor from Okayfabe. Uh, th- Thank you for joining me here, sir. I would love to hear that lovely intro that you give on all your videos. Thank you. So.
Uh, oh, you mean the little "Hello, everybody. My name is Connor, A.K." Oh, that's not. That's a growth on my face, huh? Oh, okay, that's bad. Kayfabe.
Uh, Okay, so we're here to talk about the WWE Network series, Breaking Ground, which I didn't watch for the longest time, and I'm glad though I caved in and finally started watching it. Uh, Connor, did you wait a while, or did you watch it as it came out?
So, unfortunately, because of it's kind of funny. I actually started doing a live reaction. Well, not a live, but a live like podcast slash panel Google Hangout on my channel, which I still do every Monday night immediately following Monday Night Raw. So it was very difficult for me to do this with people because, of course, Breaking Ground came out, most of the time, if not every new episode, came out right after Raw. So I didn't see it as it immediately came out on the network. However, I usually would watch it probably within 24 hours of it coming out because it wasn't that it intrigued me, it wasn't that it excited me, because any chance you get to see and learn how, a process is developed, especially like this with the Performance Center and, in NXT, it was a fun treat, so I was really excited to watch it.
Mm, Me too. What I initially liked about the first few episodes is that there was people in different aspects, but the main through line of the series, which I think we should sort of talk about first, is the Bailey storyline of how she was getting ready to. I don't think they cover the her winning the championship, or she just won it when the show started. I can't remember. Or
I think they were kind of more focusing on her as an individual because I think while they did mention NXT Brooklyn, it was kind of like a footnote. And because you have to understand it's a bigger picture. But they did obviously harp on the importance towards the end of, the two times they're making history at NXT Takeover Respect. First time ever in the history of WWE where a quote unquote pay per view the main event was a women's match, and it was the first ever time that we'd see two females compete in an Iron Man match. So I think they put more focus on that than they did Bailey winning the championship. I think they mentioned that she was proud to be champion, but I think the more pivotal focal point was, obviously NXT Takeover Respect. So.
yeah, they did really hammer that storyline in. That was the last sort of focus of the last few episodes was definitely that. But we got touched on a few different people like uh, Carmelo. I didn't really know much about her initially. But there was a whole bunch of other women that got focused on. Noof, I don't remember what happened with her. I think she was just really getting started, and it was interesting seeing that. But yeah, there was a bunch of focus on the women. Definitely, that was the main focus on this, and yeah, I liked that. I liked that they were focusing on the women a lot. What do you think of that? That the focus seemed to be on the women, especially towards the end.
Well, I think they needed to. I think they needed to focus on the women for multiple reasons. I mean, you have definitely an insurgence of, the women wrestlers, not only in the, obviously being called up to the main roster, but Bailey really truly shined this past summer. I mean, not just with their match at Brooklyn, but also obviously the match we were just talking about at Respect. So I think that focusing on the women's division, because when most people think professional wrestling, they think men. They very rarely think of they rarely think of the women, so I definitely think it was a needed, crucial thing for them to focus on for sure. And it was a treat for me. Honestly, the entire Breaking Ground show was a true treat, in my opinion.
Oh yeah, I just I liked the look of behind the scenes of that they're not just immediately thrown on to the the, the roster. Uh, there's steps leading up to that. Um, uh, yeah, there's like performing in front of the other graduates, and that there's house shows that we don't necessarily see. Um, and we got to see a little bit of Enzo Amore and Colin Cassidy outside the ring.
Love those guys.
Yeah, I vaguely remember Enzo first showing up and I didn't like him, and then now of course they're my favorite tag team in all of WWE at the moment. Uh, and it's because they remind me a little bit of the New Age Outlaws in the respect that I don't think either one of these guys necessarily would be great on their own, but together there's something there. Um, we we got to see some. There was definitely some injuries going on throughout out the series. There was Carmella's get caused by Surprise Eva Marie, and there was uh, Tino Sabatelli, who was at the beginning of the series recovering from concussion.
Right.
Yeah, and him coming back and immediately screwing up in a match with what appears to be a clearly hot prospect for NXT, Apollo Crews, because he's come in and he's had a match for the belt, and judging by what I've seen, what we've seen in this show, it's clear that maybe Triple H has got some interest in this guy. So, um, so Tino got in a lot of trouble. What did you think about this guy? Because he showed up quite a bit. I think he was like the sort of beginner guy that we're going to be probably focusing on for a few seasons, unless of course he winds up like some others that we got to see get fired in the show.
Well, I mean, that was one of the biggest shock things that I was not expecting. Now, because, when you see WWE stuff get produced, and I'm not trying to be, like, skeptical or biased or anything like that, but in all seriousness, usually, sometimes they end on, like, on a positive note. The interesting thing that I took away from Breaking Ground was the fact that we did see people get fired. We did see people get released. We did see people not make it past the Performance Center. They didn't make it to NXT, and I thought it was like, wow, this is real. As far as that guy you mentioned earlier, I would be very surprised if he does not eventually get his way up to the NXT, because I think they highlighted him for a reason. You can't tell me that, with WWE more or less having complete control over the concept of Breaking Ground, right? And I'm not saying that Breaking Ground's a bad thing, much to the opposite, actually. I thought it was fantastic. Plus, it gives some wrestlers who are kind of in that little weird, like, developmental stage where they're working NXT live shows, but they're not on NXT TV yet, to kind of give some character development, some notoriety, or at the very least, introduce them to the audience through the WWE Network, at least through this show. I guarantee you that if he keeps going and eventually makes it his way to the NXT roster, he's going to get the massivest push because his look and his in-ring ability, and I think obviously because he was one of the first few guys that was really highlighted from the show Breaking Ground, that's for sure.
I just meant, like, in case I'm saying, unless he does something incredibly wrong.
Right.
I don't say it, like, you never know. He might not, if he's had one. We've seen their treatment of guys with concussions lately. They're not messing around with any of that, and that seems to be one of the main reasons why they're not in the mood to really bring Daniel Bryan back. But I was thinking this guy he's clearly the focus, and I figure we're going to be, if there is a season 2, which I hope there is.
I think they confirmed it somewhere. Breaking Ground is one of their highest rated network shows, so it wouldn't be I'd be shocked if they didn't bring it back for a second season.
Yeah, I hadn't heard that, but I'm glad if that's true. Um, Here's something I wasn't expecting. There was we got some uh, sorry, Dana Brooke. This is someone who I immediately wasn't really liking on NXT. I wasn't terror. I was like, well, she's clearly they're trying to channel Trish Stratus with this woman, and I was like, yeah, she's nowhere near as good. But she's clearly a woman who's committed to being a wrestler and everything, and it actually got me to like her a bit. So that was interesting. Was there? Did you have any similar feeling to her at all? Because we got to stop on her pretty early on. Because I watched a couple of the earlier episodes before doing this again. So what did you think?
You mean in comparison to her versus Trish, or I mean, because
Do you have if you'd seen it before, did this show at all change your opinion of her? Is what I'm asking.
a little bit. I definitely, because you only know so much. I mean, true. Fans are privy to a lot of things on the internet, and they're privy to a lot of the behind the scenes things that goes on now in wrestling. But if more or less, as far as concrete facts, we're given what's presented with us in front of on television. You're portraying a character, you're portraying this person. So, a lot of times you hear a lot of fans say like, "Oh, this person sucks. This person's bad because they don't have a work ethic and they're not ready yet and all that stuff. And they don't have the passion." I learned very quickly that you don't know everything. you don't know everything. You may think you know everything, but that's not the case. And I definitely credit this to Dana Brooke. I really didn't know much about what her story or her background was as far as a person, not a character. But I'm glad the show did show me that, because it showed me how much effort, how much work she put in, and she does put in on a daily basis to really kind of make the best out of everything that she has at NXT. So I'm glad. I wasn't really a big fan of hers, but after seeing more about her as an individual, definitely got my eye on her. That's for sure.
Yeah, I haven't. Well, like I said, she changed my opinion on it. I'm kind of. Uh, let's move over to some of the other guys now that were on the show. We did I mentioned earlier, Apollo Crews. He sort of came in and out. We didn't really get. I didn't really seem to think. From what I remember, there was not much really there that I didn't kind of already get from the character on the screen. But Mojo Riley, this guy, I didn't know anything about. Except from the trailers where he was spouting his catchphrase, "I don't get hype, I stay hyped," and clearly that is not at all a work. That's the real guy. He's clearly always full of energy and everything, and I can see how that can probably be annoying to some people. But man, this guy clearly is definitely an asset to the roster if he's that continuously hyped. What did you think of Mojo Riley?
Oh, I love him. I go party with him in the Hype House. You kidding me? I'd go party with him in the Hype House. The guy was nuts. The guy was crazy. The guy was going all over the place. I loved it. I mean, you can't tell me that just watching him. I remember specifically the car ride was actually with Dana, where he's trying to get that chick's number. I could not stop laughing. That was just good stuff. It was great, and it's really cool not only that, but to see him try to be an inspirational role model to the kids and everything like that too. So it was like a combination of the two. So I think that he, if he can channel, that positivity, that energy, maybe not just into his character, because his character and him are over. I mean, as far as they're over, they're good. You know, if he focuses on improving his in-ring ability, I think that's the key thing to this. I could see him going. I could see him going to the main roster pretty quickly.
Yeah, and I like him and Zack Ryder together as well. I'm glad that him and Zack Ryder as a tag team definitely, I think, works, and I'm glad that they paired the two of them on, because I still like Zack Ryder and
Woo
that.
woo
So
woo.
yeah, I know it. Okay. We got some stuff on Gable and Jordan as well. So they seem both of them seem really kind of they were sort of towards the end, and I didn't get a whole lot more that I didn't know, but I'm hoping that that's setting up for them maybe next season as well. Have you got any opinions on them at all? Because I really didn't get much more than what
They didn't really put too much into them. I think they were more focusing on one versus the other. But I'm pretty much on the same opinion as you are, that they're basically holding off a lot of it to focus on them next season. If Breaking Ground is going in for season 2, which again I'm pretty sure I heard they are doing a season 2, and again, why wouldn't they with the success of this one, especially with the heightened interest in NXT product lately? I think they'll be a huge focal point for sure.
Okay. Now there's just two. I think I've only got like two or three other guys really here to mention. Josh from Tough Enough. Clearly, I'm hoping we can follow more on him, because unless they've released him or anything, but he's clearly getting started, and I was immediately thinking, oh, we're going to follow this guy on and off for a few seasons, because he's, judging from what I've seen here, he's still a long way from NXT in any way, shape, or form. But I'm glad we stopped on him. I didn't watch Tough Enough, but I'm glad we're picking up somewhere with him. What do you think, Connor?
I mean, I kind of was interested in Josh, and I only say kind of because I'm kind of on the fence about it, to be honest. ZZ was obviously the focal point here because he was the underdog and the more popular person on Tough Enough that people wanted to see, go on. So Josh, I honestly, unless something major happens to him, I don't really care too much about him. And the only reason I say it is because, let's be real here, we haven't had the best track record with Tough Enough winners, have we? With the exception of maybe John Morrison. Not the greatest track record as far as people who are successful at Tough Enough. You look at Miz, who was runner-up, and he became WWE champion, he even main evented at WrestleMania, but that's another story for another time. Ha ha ha. But I'm just not interested in Josh, to be honest with you. There's nothing there. At least ZZ has some character. Josh just, I'm not saying that he's a bad person or a bad dude, just I'm not interested.
Yeah. I'm glad they at least stopped on both of them. I didn't realize ZB was like. I thought I recognized him because I've seen a couple of the trailers and stuff. But yeah. And I guess it's a good time to mention Baron Corbin. Yeah, I don't have a strong opinion one way or another on Baron Corbin. I look at him and he's a big guy, and clearly they want to do stuff with him. I didn't see anything here to influence me. Oh yeah, Baron Corbin is clearly should be on the main roster already and everything. I was just like looking at him and I'm like, clearly you want to be on the main roster, but I don't know if you've worked hard. I don't know if you've got all the skills and especially a guy his size, I'm just looking at him and going, we've already got like a bunch of big guys on the show already. Do we really need another one right away? So what do you think? We got a few snippets of him here and there. I didn't see anything that made me go, oh, it should already be on there.
I mean, honestly, this made me a fan of Corbin's. I wasn't really big on him beforehand, and I don't know if it was because of the gimmick's kind of been. I mean, it's more or less like a biker gimmick, and I don't want to say that like stereotypical, but I mean, come on, we've seen enough biker gimmicks in wrestling, not just WWE. But what really kind of made me intrigued was the fact that he's just like he really is that himself in real life. He's a dick, and that's the part I kind of liked about it was the fact that like he didn't come from a wrestling background. He didn't go through the independent circuit, so he had to fight that much harder and learn that much more. But I think that he carries himself a very intriguing way, and he does have an intriguing look. But this made me a fan of his. I liked seeing what he goes through, and his skill level and his like frustration of saying he's pretty close to the top of the card of NXT. Arguably, he could be like the next NXT champion, but other factors are holding him back, and he's frustrated and blah blah blah, and he's gunning for stuff. And it was very interesting that he said like his ultimate goal is main event of WrestleMania, which can't lie, that's the ultimate goal right then and there. So it's definitely, if anything, I was definitely a big fan of Corbin after this one.
Well, I mean, I wasn't. I haven't been like, oh, Baron Corbin, he's terrible, we should cut him or anything like that. I wasn't like that. It was like clearly with his size and everything, he belongs on the card. And I'm just I look at the guy and I'm like, is he offering anything different to what we've already got in there? And I'm like, no, not. It's like, I don't begrudge him if he comes to the roster, but like I don't see a spot for him on the roster at the moment. So I think that's me. I think that, and he still needs a bit of polish, to be honest, before he goes to the main roster.
Well, kind of, sort of. I think that his character's been done before, and let's be completely honest here. More or less, every character's been done before in wrestling. It's very hard and unique to be original. That being said, his character's not necessarily a straightforward biker gimmick. It's a lone wolf kind of, I'm a jerk, I'm going to do what I need to do and do what it takes. Kind of dig it. I kind of dig that type of character. So it's... the main reason I get more interested, it's funny I'm bringing this up, when it comes to NXT talent going up to the main roster, true, half of it is, oh, I'd love to see him on the main roster. But realistically, it's more about what could we now see on the main roster? What other factors? What other matches? Matches we haven't seen before. That's the big thing to me. And seeing Baron Corbin's style and the way he wrestles, I definitely think you could put on some very good matches with a lot of the lower or upper mid-card / low main event or co-main event talents that could really deliver some strong numbers for WWE once he gets called up to the main roster. So that's what I'm looking for when I see Baron Corbin.
You know what I see when I look at him?
What's that?
To be honest, next year's Undertaker's if Undertaker's wrestling next year, his opponent for WrestleMania.
Ooh, that's a bold statement. I mean, not to say it couldn't happen. I mean, you were to tell me that Husky Harris would eventually be co-main eventing at WrestleMania. I mean, that's a bit of a stretch in and of itself. But hey, crazier things have happened.
I just look at him and I can kind of see a guy that could possibly be would definitely work a good match with Taker at WrestleMania. Yeah, so. Towards the end, we also got to see Nia Jax. Now, I haven't been paying close attention to the NXT show, unfortunately. There's only so many hours in the day, and there's so much other stuff I've been catching up on, especially recently. But I had no idea that this woman was related to Rock in any way, shape, or form. But yeah, with someone with like her size and everything, and her coming from that family, she's definitely eventually going to be on the main roster and everything. And she wrestled in one hell of a match with Bayley and next NXT Takeover London. And when I heard her describing her music, I was like, no, it should be something else. But then I heard it and I was like, this kind of works, but I pictured something more like a like rock beat or something.
Oh no,
Like
I would be totally different. I mean,
I
she is related to The Rock. She's the cousin, which those damn Samoans are taking over WWE between the Usos, Roman. I mean, geez, you can make a stable just then. And I mean, Tamina Snuka is a cousin, so it's like crap. So, I mean, her look is nothing. Is not the stereotypical WWE diva, and that's what makes me like her. It's like when they brought Karma in. The reason I like Karma is because, and I think Dutch Mantel, a.k.a. Zeb Coulter, said this in an interview. He goes, the reason I like different styles and different whatnot in the women, he goes, it's like the Rockettes. The Rockettes are the famous New York, showgirls that do like the line dancing where they go kicking, and they all look the same. Well, how are you going to, that's not going to be interesting to me if you have, 7 women lined up in a row that more or less all look the same, whether it be different hair color, eyes, but they're all like these pretty girls who can fight. But if you put someone like Nia Jax or Awesome Kong on the end and be like, oh, geez, wow, okay, okay, that's totally different from that's different. Okay, you've got my full attention because you're not like everybody else. You have the instant ability to stand out. And she needs to take that momentum, which I believe so far she has. She needs to take that momentum and run with it as far and as fast as she can. Because I guarantee you, if she does that and keeps the momentum up, especially after her match at TakeOver London against Bayley, I would be surprised if she stayed on NXT longer than a year. Put it that way.
Yeah, because Kevin Sullivan in one of the guest Booker DVDs. I don't know if you've caught them at all. Have you?
I've watched every one of them.
Okay. He said in I think it was the first one, Samoans. They're all good wrestlers. Essentially, they're all. I think something along those lines. He said was they can all work and he's pretty much right. I don't think there's been a really terrible one. I usually like their styles. It's always high impact and Nia Jax, she's awesome. So I think we're almost done here. Of course, they covered Sami Zayn's injury and.
Well, how about Tyler Breeze?
Yeah, him as well. I don't remember much about that, but I remember that they were saying like he's been there a long time. He's been there since it was FCW and everything. He sort of came up with this male model gimmick, which worked for him, and I'm glad it did. I just wish I could have seen some of the other stuff because I would have liked to compare and contrast what was working.
Well, remember, I mean, Joe was Joe didn't show up around that. I mean, Joe showed up after Brooklyn, so you're looking timetable wise towards the very end of Breaking Ground. So, but yeah, I'm kind of with you. If they put the focus on Joe at second season, it'd be really interesting to see, especially if they talk about his indie background and Ring of Honor and all that stuff.
Oh, I was talking about Tyler Breeze, but I was like, I haven't seen any of his FCW stuff. And Joe actually showed up, wasn't it? it was one of the. It was definitely before Brooklyn because he was. I remember he showed up at like our evolution or something, wasn't it? He showed up.
Yes.
Yeah. But they covered Sami Zayn's injury, and I'm glad they showed Tyler Breeze, and like I knew they would eventually show him getting called up, and I'm just sad they stuck him in that Rusev Dolph Ziggler angle that has been going nowhere at all.
It's funny how they say that going up to the main roster is rather bittersweet because, you know, some NXT guys have gotten success, sometimes they've not. It's kind of like, you know, you're really part of this hot thing with NXT, but at the same time, you know, it's kind of a double-edged sword to go up to the main roster, you know.
Yeah, I mean, look at Neville, who got to team with a Hollywood actor. You'd think, wow, that must mean they're going to do something with him. No, they did nothing with him at all. It was just because, oh, he's Red Arrow and he plays Green Arrow.
Yay.
See, we're witty. No.
We know colors. Green and red makes purple, I think.
Was so. Let's just end things off. Who are you hoping to see them cover next season? Because they sort of touched on a few other people here and there. There was some, I think, Indian guy that they looked at, and
I mean,
that was interesting.
yeah. I mean, I think there's a couple from last season that I would definitely. I think Enzo and Cassidy would be one of them. I think Nia Jax they should keep focus on. I think Joe's another one. Sami Zayn, but I also would love to see a lot of focal point on Finn Balor, because again, it's different perspective. I'd love to see more on Corbin, but I'd also like to see more on Finn Balor. Basically because I don't think people understand and know how deep and rich of a wrestling background he has and where his popularity and all that came from. So I would like to see more of particularly Finn. Finn and Nia are the two big ones I'd like to see more on next season.
Let me just go back to the roster here.
Or perhaps others after they get signed, or at least reportedly signed.
I'm hoping, speaking of recent rumors, though, there's been a whole heap of rumors about, most of them I'm hoping get put on the main roster, like talking about AJ and Carl Anderson and
Right.
Doc Gallows. All three of them, I don't think they need to really be on the NXT roster. I'd like to see them, especially with the player roster they have right now for star power and the lack of really good tag teams. Just like you put Doc Gallows and Carl Anderson in there, you're talking about two really big guys. Man, put them on the main roster. I'm sorry, I don't know what the other guy's name, how you pronounce it in Japanese is, but if they want to pay any attention to them, that's fine. I'm hoping Hideo Itami comes back and they can do some stuff with him.
There's actually a big rumor going around that he's asking for his release.
Really?
Yes.
I'd be curious to why.
And I'm just going to leave that out there. I mean, there's not a single shred of confirmation, but there's a rumor that he's asking for his release. So there's that.
Well, maybe he wants to go back to Japan. I'm guessing maybe he makes more money there. And maybe Osaka, give her some more time. So I'm thinking there's more to that character than I dress funny. And maybe give some more attention to some of the trainers because that might be interesting. Or some of the other tag teams on NXT, give some attention to them because they're like there's guys that are clearly challenging the Brainbusters or Horsemen tag.
Gable and Jordan are another one that come to mind.
Yeah. Yeah. But yeah, there's Bull Dempsey would be really interesting because
True.
it kind of because he was apparently a big guy and then he's dropped a bunch of weight. It might be interesting to because he was one I thought they're surely going to focus on him like he's got to lose all this weight. When I first heard about this, there's this other show I remember them talking about which hopefully is coming up soon because it might be kind of weirdly interesting because it sounds like similar to that Jerry Seinfeld series that I got introduced to at TAFE, which is community college out here, sort of thing. Wrestlers talking in cars or something. Two wrestlers on a road trip or something.
Oh yeah, yeah.
That series. You got any thoughts on that series?
Yeah, the Table for Three.
No, the wrestlers talking in cars or whatever it is that they're going to be doing.
Nothing particularly, to be honest with you. I mean, good show, but nothing of any substantial. Yeah, just like neither here nor there. I mean, I was like, oh my god, it was amazing, but you know.
Yeah, I'm thinking, that could work. That could be another interesting show. The Table for Three thing, I'd like to see them put that. I can't imagine why that's not done like at least because it always seems like it's random when it comes out.
So they've taken a break since I think October, and it comes out every Wednesday, at least over here in the States. But they've the themes of them are random, but honestly, there really aren't too many that were really bad. Most of them are really good. Particularly the couple that come to mind is when they did New Day, when they did Owens, Ambrose, and Cesaro. And I'm trying to think what else were some good ones.
There was NXT one, Neville, Joe,
and Bo Dallas.
Yeah.
But yeah, there's a tons of tables of a table for three that were really awesome. Most of them were pretty funny. So definitely like that series.
I'd like to see Kane, Big Show, and Taker.
No, I would do Bray Wyatt, Luke Harper, and Eric Rowan.
Yeah, that'd be another good one.
That I would pay good money to see that one.
Yeah. Anyway, I'm hoping for season 2 of the show comes out really soon. I'm looking forward to it. It seemed the way they were ending it was to sort of like if it did well, they were hoping for a season 2, but they sort of like wrapped things up by going over everything that's happening at NXT Takeover London, sort of like an end point. So hopefully they're starting filming season 2 because that would be really interesting.
I'd particularly be interested, especially if they did it over a takeover in Dallas, because yours truly will be there.
Oh, okay. So that'll be interesting, and I'm hoping hopefully they will do an NXT takeover Sydney, because if they do, I will be gladly there to see that. Anyway, yeah, no, probably not.
I know those are expensive.
Yeah, because if they're filming it out here, tickets will probably cost an arm and a leg. Okay, so thank you everyone for tuning in. I have been the magnificent Magpie, and I was joined by...
None other than Connor, a.k.a. Okayfabe.
Thank you, and we'll be catching you again another time.